What we're going to do, as we do normally, is we're going to Skype Bill and Diana LePage in Australia, and then Farshid will lead us in the prayers, and Angela will also lead us in the Australian arti. And then Sally will read something, and Brad will sing a song, and then Farshid is going to talk to us about his journey. So with that, let's see if we can get Bill and Diana on.
Hey guys!
So from all of us, Bill and Diana, we send our love across the ocean. And we're going to start the prayers by Farshid leading us in it. And this is the program, and you can back off whenever you feel that you want to. We're going to do the prayers, the arti, a short reading by Miss Sally, a song by Brad Mandel, and Farshid is going to talk with us about his journey, and then Brad will end it into song.
No. Only if you're Sounds wonderful.
And if Bill wants to butt in, let him.
Yeah.
I love being reminded of all of you, Little Beach, and all you Barber lovers, so much.
David, ask him to give
I'm
him
sorry, I can't give anything other than I'm so happy to be reminded of all you.
Me so happy.
Because that simply reminds me of beloved Barbara. Oh, how thankful we are to be reminded so much. You're a wonderful lot.
And the picture is really clear. We can see every one of you this time. This is a great camera. Yeah, this really works. Yeah.
And it's so wonderful to be reminded of Barbara. Sorry, I'm not.
Well, actually, the thing is, this is almost his rest time every morning, you know? So his body is calling for, you know, the beyond.
You better hurry.
So then we'll start the prayers now. Farshid?
Yeah, good.
Farshid. So they see you.
You'll have to, tip it up a little bit. There you go.
Beloved Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Beloved Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Beloved Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. O perverted God, the preserver and protector of all.
You are without beginning and without end, non-dual, beyond comparison, and none can measure you. You are without color, without expression, without form, and without attributes. You are unlimited and unfathomable, beyond imagination and conception, eternal and imperishable. You are indivisible, and none can see you but eyes divine. You always were, you always are, and you always will be. You are everywhere, you are in everything, and you are also beyond everywhere and beyond everything. You are in the firmament and in the depths. You are manifest and unmanifest, on all planes and beyond all planes. You are in the three worlds and also beyond the three worlds. You are imperceptible and independent. You are the Creator, the Lord of Lords, the knower of all minds and hearts. You are omnipotent and omnipresent. You are knowledge infinite, power infinite, and bliss infinite. You are the ocean of knowledge, all-knowing, the source of truth, the ocean of love. You are the ancient one, the highest of the high. You are Prabhu and Parameshwar. You are the beyond God and the beyond beyond God also. You are Parabrahma, Allah, Elahi, Yesan, our Master, and God the Beloved. You are named Isa, the only one worthy of worship. O God, most merciful, for all our sins, for every thought that was false or unjust or unclean, for every word spoken that ought not to have been spoken, for every deed done that ought not to have been done. We repent for every deed and word and thought inspired by selfishness, and for every deed and word and thought inspired by hatred. We repent most especially for every lustful thought and every lustful action, for every lie, for all hypocrisy, for every promise given but not fulfilled, and for all slander and backbiting. Most especially also, we repent for every action that has brought ruin to others, for every word and deed that has given others pain, and for every wish that pain should befall others. In your unbounded mercy, we ask you to forgive us, O God, for all these sins committed by us, and to forgive us for our constant failures to think and speak and act according to your will. Amen. Lord God, help us all to love you more and more, and more and more, and still yet more, till we become worthy of union with you, and help us all to hold fast to Baba's Dhamma till the very end. Avatar Mere Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Mere Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Mere Baba Ki Jai.
Angela? Come, Angela. Come. Right here. Right here. So they can.
Glorious, eternal, ancient one, your face is a bright, transcendental sun. Lighten this dark world and the tears I weep. My heart may dare I give to you to keep. Creator, yet creationless you are. Truth and truth's body, divine avatar, who through compassion the three worlds maintains. Destroy this ignorance that life sustains. These five lights are the whirling spokes of breath, of the world's wheel that bears me on to death. Unless you who are infinitely kind, break the wheels of which is conditioned mind. This incense is my love, these fruits my heart, which to please you I have shaped from my heart. Accept them as you would a simple flower that has no use beyond its shining hour. You are myself, I sing to you in praise, and beg your love to bear me through the days, till you, the ever-living perfect one, illumine my darkness with your shining sun.
Avatar Mere Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Mere Baba
की जय। अवतार में बाबा की जय।
Jai Baba. If everybody will find that side, Sally is going to have a short reading, only 30 minutes still.
Okay, I'm going to read loud. It's all of about 25 words. If 6 cobras came into this room suddenly from out there, would you just sit still with me? No, you would be flying out the doors and windows as fast as you could in sheer panic. You would forget all about Baba. Peter denied me when I was Jesus. The dark cloud of which I've been talking is very, very near. It will happen suddenly, from an unexpected angle, just like I have mentioned the sudden onrush of the cobras. You will not expect it from such an angle, and you will feel justified in leaving me. Each will be tried by his psychological weakness, but try to hang on. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Where's that from, Sally?
How a Master Works by Ivy Deuce.
Okay,
It's Dorothy's book. David snagged it out.
what page?
308.
Brad? Where can we get Brad? Can I move that to over here?
Well, I'm going to move if he's, let's see where he is.
Brad, maybe we can get you in front over here. Or,
I
okay,
got the amp over here, just turn
Yeah,
it up.
move the table. There you go.
It's easier to see
Okay.
that.
Can you see Brad? Dale? Diana?
Oh, you just wiggled it.
The connection.
Wiggled the cord.
No, they're there.
Don't touch anything.
Brad Mandel.
Brad and Kathy.
Well, wait a minute.
Brad Mandel, wait a minute.
Wait just a second.
Uh-oh.
Give him a hand. I could have helped you. I could have helped you.
Tangled up here, tangled up in blue.
Where's one?
Not working.
It's on.
No power.
No power to the amp, the fire, but you know what? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We need a,
Hold on, we got a tech here.
Technical support.
What's a battery? Oh, I see.
I have a plug.
Whoops.
There's a plug here.
If you've got a plug, we can do something with a plug. You want to?
You want to plug it into
Plug
something?
in there.
Here you go. Here.
Hold on, technical difficulties.
We got a plug, we got a
This?
plug.
Is this what you're talking about?
Okay, Ann, you got a joke?
I got it. No. Where's Pamela? You got a joke?
You know what? If it doesn't work,
David,
we'll hear it.
let Bill know
Okay.
that he wants to, he's
Go,
coughing
Brad.
a lot.
I got power.
I don't know why the
Hands over. Oh, there it is.
it goes out.
No, this came off.
Really good. Yeah, I'm playing a lot.
Even throughout COVID,
Pretty much.
clubs and stuff.
Yeah, for a while it was slow, but now it's full of laughs.
Everybody.
Temperamental.
I don't know what's going on.
All right. Test one, can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great.
Bill, can you hear him?
It's too loud there.
Oh, yeah.
down, there's a hole up in your roof. And you're getting so wet, you wish your life were waterproof. With Mayor Baba, you will be free, yeah. In the arms of the beloved, where you'll be. Now on the subtle planes, the sights and sounds are a delight. And in the mental sphere, you'll see God within her sight. With Mayor Baba, you will be free, yeah. In the arms of the beloved, where you'll be. With Mayor Baba, out of the world with Mayor Baba, you'll be finding the pearl with Mayor Baba. Sent from above with Mayor Baba, you'll be feeling in love with Mayor Baba, Baba. With Mayor Baba, you will be free, yeah. In the arms of the beloved, where you'll be. Now on the subtle planes, the sights and sounds are a delight. And in the mental sphere, you'll see God within her sight. With Mayor Baba, you will be free, yeah. In the arms of the beloved, where you'll be. With Mayor Baba, out of the world with Mayor Baba, you'll be finding the pearl with Mayor Baba. Sent from above with Mayor Baba, you'll be feeling his love with Mayor Baba, Baba.
Brad, I heard that same song under the boardwalk.
Similar, but I think they copied this song.
They must have.
How did you have Farshid to sit up over there or down there?
It doesn't matter, wherever he wants to.
Farshid,
Let's get him
get
set
on.
up. I'm gonna get him set up.
So if you'd like to sit over here, is that okay? Or would you like to sit up?
Sit on the chair. Sit up.
You want to be up or down?
Up and down is the same, isn't it?
Up and down, same thing. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're not so up.
Do I have this?
And at the end of
Bob, can you hear me?
At the end of Farshid's talk, Brad's going to sing 2 more songs, which will wind the meeting.
And then there'll be ping pong.
Yeah, Jay Baba, it's good to see you again.
Hey, Bob.
Good old days, I remember the good old days. I have
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I have a lot of recording from you, and I do appreciate it.
Right?
Thank God we still remember.
Yeah, Bill, I remember Bill said the whole book of the 3 incredible weeks. He would come to our house every week. I would go on. And I was recording it by tape and video, so I have them both. Hopefully someday we can share it together, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Good.
So, and thank you for being here. It's so wonderful. It gives the blast of the energy of love so much better, you know, for all of us. Thank you.
Well, I think it's when the 2 hearts, when all the hearts are going together, it's the best.
That's
you get
right.
that flow.
That is
so
true.
Good.
That is true. That is true. And we have so many Baba lovers, wonderful ones, with full of love with Baba here today. That gives it even more. Now I don't know. David said something about my journey. I don't have any journey really to go in to talk about. I thought because the Silence Day is so close, it's about what, 4 days from now?
Yes.
I can maybe share some of Baba's words in one of the interviews that he had in 1956 in New York. And there are a lot of things that these reporters, they ask Baba, and Baba responds so clearly and nicely that I thought should share it with everyone. Now, why, the thing is that why Baba kept silence, and silence for such a long time. He didn't break it because he said, I kept that silence to break it, and when I break it, the whole creation will know of me and will be awakened to that. So with that, let me share this reporter, and then we can go on to talking about other things. So this was the 1956 trip to the West. This was in New York. At 11 a.m., all were called into the interview room. Cameramen from NBC television were given to take a short film. Don Stevens read Baba's message, Deathless Living, which is actually, it's in the Life at its Best, Deathless Living. If anybody wants to read it, I have a copy of it here too. And afterwards, Baba stated, it is the birthright of every human being to be happy, but most feel miserable. It is due to the load of sanskaras or impressions gathered throughout evolution. In our evolution, through all the forms, stone, worm, bird, fish, animal, we gather impressions. Once human consciousness is gained, then there is full consciousness. After that, it is only a question of directing one's attention to the in in order to become free. So Baba clearly says because of these impressions we suffer, but our birthright is to be happy. Unfortunately, because of all the sanskaras of the past, some feel miserable because of those. Everyone can be happy, but some feel happy and some miserable. Those who constantly want something will never feel happy. Misery is bound to accompany wanting. Those who never want for themselves but for others, they can feel happy. Why? Because they want others to feel happy. God, who is in everything and in everyone, is deaf to formal rituals, ceremonies, prayers in mosques, churches, and temples. But he hears the voice of the heart. When you help others, God knows instantly and is pleased. No amount of prayer or meditation can do what helping others can do. The main thing that counts is love for me. How will you love me? By loving God as well as others. If you make others happy, God pays heed. Do you follow? I have been saying the same message throughout the ages, that all are one. We are all one, and all of you love me. I am in everything, and everything is in me. In India, I bow down to the lepers, the poor, the lame. Why do I bow down? Because I am one with everything. God is in everyone. Age after age, I've been bringing the same message. But mankind does not listen. Christ had to be crucified, otherwise humanity would not have listened to him. Baba ended by just saying, I am the ancient one. Then Baba left the interview room and went into a smaller room next door for a press conference with reporters from New York newspapers. About a dozen or so had come to interview him. Ivy Deuce had already briefed them on Baba's life and background. Erich has usually interpreted for Baba. So Baba says, I am very happy to see you all. While I was giving the interviews a few minutes ago, this gentleman asked Baba, what is your title? Do you remember? The reporter said, yes, I do. And then they asked Baba that question, but Baba didn't answer it until he came to the interview room, and then or the reporter room, and then he said, "You asked me a question. Do you remember that?" The reporter said, "Yes, I do." And then Baba said, "In India, the Indians call me Avatar, which means God in human form, God descending in human form. But I say to everyone, you are all avatars. Why? Because God is in all. I and you are one. That is what I say to all. In India, when I go to different places to give darshan, that is, when the people see me and bow down to me, then I bow down to them. To the aged, to the lepers, to the children, to make them understand that the only reality is God. Every individual should be happy, but no one is. Why? It is due to ignorance. They do not understand that God resides in all, that God knows everything. If they would just resign to the will of God, they would be happy because they would know how to feel happy. One should not think of self. One should think of others and try to make others happy. Then there will not be any strife. All would be happy. Everything would be harmonious. Yesterday I gave out this message. God, who is all power, all wisdom, all love, all mercy, and all bliss, resides in us all. There also resides in us all the opposite aspects of these infinite qualities, like helplessness, ignorance, lust, cruelty, and suffering. He who desires God develops compassion, selflessness, and self-denying renunciation. He who runs after transitory shadow objects of desires cultivates selfishness, greed, and hatred. The former brings peace on earth, the latter brings war and destruction. Give up low desires and unnecessary cravings, and you will experience heaven on earth. Another reporter asks, we have here many excerpts of messages concerning your silence. Is there any one statement that is more significant than the other? And Baba replied, there is one. When I break my silence...
David, they're signing off. She kissed us goodbye.
Diana, hold on one second. Diana, before you go, I would just like to say, in about 6 weeks, it's Bill's birthday, in case you forgot.
Yes.
And the 14th falls out on a Sunday. So prepare yourselves for a musical love feast to celebrate Bill's 98th birthday. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Bye, Mom.
Jai Baba, sign up.
You said that now. Thank you.
So we were at the verge of commenting on Baba's silence, and Baba said, so let me go back a little bit. Another reporter asked, we have here many excerpts of messages concerning your silence. Is there any one statement that is more significant than the other? And then Baba replied, there is one. When I break my silence, the world will come to know that I am the one whom they were waiting for. And then one other person, reporter, asked, what inspired your silence? And Baba said, to make the world know me to make the world know me after breaking my silence. And then under the circumstances, did you become silent? Did you have a vision of some kind of, or a message? Another reporter asked. And Baba says, my knowledge, I do not have to think about this. I know it. When I first began silence, I knew that when I broke the silence, the world would know me, and so I began. And then Eric said, do you follow what Baba says? It is important. Baba says. The reporter said, yes, thank you. It is known that many people who are not articulate over a number of years lose their power of speech. Are you confident that you will be able to speak when the time comes? They asked Baba. Baba just said, 100%. Another reporter queried, how can you be sure? And then, because I know, Baba said. So anyway, continues about Baba's silence. Now, let me go a little further to Baba continued now about his silence. When I began my silence, I also gave up writing. I gave up reading. Then I began to use an alphabet board. When people came near me, I used to explain on the alphabet board. I used to give messages to thousands at one time in this way. People came to me by thousands and tens of thousands. They would sit in silence to hear my message that I would dictate on the board. Very recently, I have given up even the use of my alphabet board, and I try to express what I wish through my gestures. And then Baba goes on and talking about his silence and breaking of his silence. One of the main things that, it's good to contemplate on and remind ourselves is that the silence is love. Baba kept the silence to keep that love and not let it flow. To me, this is what exactly happened. Because only he wrapped like a shining sun, he wrapped himself into all these restrictions, keeping silence, not writing, not reading. So he doesn't let the flow of love to go through the world, because he knew that love impact will be so tremendous that a lot of people would lose their bodies. And he only revealed his identity to a few of his close ones. Even up to today, when we sit and think about Avatar coming on Earth and how many people really know of him, we are so fortunate to know of him. And not only that, it shows us that we are so close to the Avatar that he allowed us to come into his contact and to be in his love orbit before the whole humanity comes in. So when his love is released by breaking of his silence, the impact of that will be tremendous. And that is when Baba says, in this avataric age, one doesn't really have to go through all the stages or all the planes of consciousness. Because by breaking of the silence, he's going to give a lot of souls liberation. For him is his game. He can do anything. So the souls get liberated. What that means, the soul become one with God without going through any planes of consciousness. They will be in bliss, constantly experiencing God, being one with God. But those who go through the planes, that's another type of souls that they realize God eventually. Now, one, which one is sweeter and better? That's up to him, because he's the, he's the Lord, he's the owner. It's all up to us to beg, and whatever way he wants us to go, he will give us, and we will go through it. About his silence again, Baba said, if you silence your mind and the external silence, Baba said the inner silence is what really matters, not the outer silence. But he said the outer silence will help the inner silence. Now, what is the outer silence is not speaking. So on the 10th of July, those who keep silence is actually not only are going to help themselves, they are also helping Baba's work, because Baba, through this silence, does his work of love. And talking about the release of love and the silence, I remember, as family, or sometimes I would go, drive for hours and hours to be where he was sometimes. And when I would get there, I remember one of these occasions was he was in Canada in an island, and I went there to see him. He was with my sister. So after I arrived there, after so many hours of driving, I sat there and I didn't say a word. And my sister said, "What's wrong with you? You came all the way here and sitting here and don't say a word." I said, the word is not necessary. I mean, sitting here in that love presence, what is the word? There is no word. I mean, you don't want to even talk, because, as Baba also explained to Erich, that Erich said that, when one feels angry against someone, they shout at each other, they loudly shout at each other. But when one loves someone, they chit-chat, chitter into their eyes, and eventually, if the love becomes so pure and tremendous, there is no talk, there is no even word exchanged. And then Baba again talks about this side and says, things that are real are given and received in silence. So what is real? Baba came to show us what the reality is, which is God, which is love. Love and God are identical. So one who loves, one is living the life of God. So that is the real exchange. Things that are real are given and received in silence. Why do you go to Lagoon Cabin or holy places or Baba's tomb and you don't want to say a word? Because the mind shuts out, The heart knows that the heart has to work here. The mind cannot grasp even. So that's why the word doesn't come out. I'm going to stop here, be silent myself, and then see if anybody wants me to say about anything. I'm happy to say. Yes, David.
I know that you spent quite a bit of time with Esfandiar, and I've heard some of those stories, and I thought maybe we could go back in time where you first started to travel with Esfandiar and translate for him, and your relationship with him.
Well, the relation goes past, kind of goes to the past. Baba puts it all there. It's all him. I was born to this Baba family. My two uncles, they went to Prem Ashram. They were in Baba's ashram. My father was younger, so he didn't go, but he later years went to 1962 and 65 darshan and met Baba. So I was raised in this type of family that they were dedicated to Baba. They would go to the meetings with Baba and all that. And naturally, as Svandir, who was one of the Pramashram boys at the time, you know, I would see every time we would go to the meeting at least. Sometimes we had three meetings, every week. God Speaks meeting, Mervish remembers that. Then we had, going to the mountains and hills on Fridays. She probably remembers that in the morning, very early in the morning. And then we had regular meetings too, that, it was open to the public, general public would come. So this was the atmosphere that I grew up in. I got educated, and then actually me and Svandir became closer. It was, in a way, there were so many stories behind this. I tell you one of them. One of them was that, we knew Svandir was in the Paramashram, but I didn't know really much about his inner experience. He would never talk about that. One of the occasions, I remember I was a youngster, maybe 12, 13 years old, sitting in a meeting, and they read from Meher Baba Calling, which was in Persian, translated in Persian, to Haftad Gul. And the passage was, Baba said, if you have the piece of a frozen lake, you will realize me. And as this was read, I was looking around the room, to see who has this piece of a frozen lake. As a child, curious, who has this piece of a frozen lake? And my eyes fell on Svandir. He had his eyes closed, and the light, the aura that I saw, it was something different, not of this world. So to myself, I said, if anyone has this piece of a frozen lake, is this man. And that was the end of it. Then there were other occasions, like one evening he shared Baba's clothes, Baba's sadra coat and sandal that Baba had given to him. And he shared that with everyone to go take darshan. That was another occasion that maybe I should say that was the first time that I felt divine love. And I kind of distinguish between worldly love and divine love, what divine love is, what pure divine love really is. Because that evening that he shared those with us, it was so pure. It was so much bliss that I couldn't hold myself. I even couldn't bow down to Baba's sadra because I wasn't myself anymore. And I ran out. And later, when I calmed down a little bit, I came back and I could bow down and take my darshan. So, all these help to intermingle my relation with Svandir until I came to America. Even my coming to America, he was the media for me to come. Because for me to leave Iran, I had to put a financial, financial obligation that I would go back. This was something that the embassy, United States Embassy wanted. But my father didn't have that kind of a money to put as a collateral. Esfandiar said, I'll put that collateral. But the thing is that the person who could do the collateral had to be a family member. So he gave that money to my cousin, who basically took the collateral and put it for me to come. But all this, really, when I go back and think about it, it was all Baba's plan for me to come here to get educated, and later here, he could come here, and then, I could translate for him. Actually, the first time that I started translating for him was in India, and all the stories that he was saying was new to me myself too, because I'd never heard of it. And he started talking about his experiences in Paramashram. He started talking about the time that he was in Lower Mehrabad, his school. He showed us his school, and then walked up the hill, showed us where Baba took the rickshaw, and took him up on that rickshaw to show him, how the path of the spirituality is, full of bumps and all that you probably have heard those stories until so I translated those for those who were there, and there were some videos taken at the time too. But the later years were, more significant, because I would ask him, you were in Paramashram, and Baba said, when you were in Paramashram, you were on the third plane of consciousness. What is your stage now? Can you tell us a little bit about it? I would say it's better. He would never say anything, but he would say it's better. So I'm so grateful to Baba. Honestly, I think Baba, through Esfandiar, gave me a glimpse of being with him. Because I don't know, from childhood even, I always missed Baba's physical presence. Even when I was 5 years old, I would look at Baba's image, which was in my grandfather's house, and I would cry. And I didn't know why, I didn't know Baba, who Baba was, but, looking at his image, I would cry. And there were other occasions when I grew up, other things happened. But what I wanted to say is that how grateful we all should be, to know of him, to know of the avatar. And that shows a lot. Just know of him, just heard of his name. I mean, if you love him with the pure divine love, that's so much better. But if you even heard his name just today and you came here, or you heard of his name and you believe in him, that's such a blessing, because being that close to the avatar, it's so significant. It's so, it gives so much hope to life, through, amongst all the 18,000 planets that Baba said, 1,800 planets that Baba said, human life is on, and we are on Earth. As the progress comes, those souls are born on Earth, and then the progress is more and more and more until one becomes one with God, or goes into the divine love orbit, or Mayor Baba's orbit or the Avatar's orbit each time he comes. So look at on Earth, all the humanity in different countries, in different part of the world, in different religion. They fight over religion, they fight over race, they fight over nationalities. I mean, it's all nonsense. I mean, for us Baba lovers, we know it's all nonsense because it's everything. We're all one. But how fortunate we are to know of him and to know of this. And, not to distinguish between rich and poor or ugly and beautiful or, Muslim or Christian or Zoroastrian or, black or white or, brown. How fortunate we are. Aren't we, David?
I have one more question.
Yes.
Oh my
Actually, I
God.
got 100, but,
There is another
oh,
person.
go ahead, if there's somebody in the back.
Salam. Good to have you here. Speaking of Paramashram and the time that the boys were there, recently there's a book coming out, which you may all have heard about. It's called Creation and Its Causes, that Work Parks and others have been working on. And these were lectures and talks that Baba gave to the boys.
Right.
At such a young age. The boys were ranging from, 8 years old to 16 at most. These topics were so esoteric and so about astronomy and, the world and how it's created and the universes and so on and so forth. Being that they were so esoteric, the result, though, was just these boys were just bursting out in love. And that's really all that was really happening there. I'm curious if Esfandiar ever mentioned those lectures and talks Baba gave at that time.
Sometimes he would talk about some of the things, but he wouldn't say that, at the time of Paramashram, Baba said such a thing. But I remember one of my uncles, Khosrow, talked a little bit about those times. He said, Baba would sometimes come in the evening, and Esfandiar would say so too, that Baba would come in the evening, talk about Baba, talk about, God and creation and all that. But he wouldn't go specific. But one of the things that I remember from my uncle, he went specific on the issue that he said Baba brought a doll one day, and then Baba put the doll, it was a rubber doll, all in like a ball. He made it to a ball. And he said to the boys, that this is now a rock. And then he opened the doll a little bit, and he said now it started to grow like a vegetable. And then he would, lay it and, make it curly, and he would say, now it's like a worm. So he would, he would show the boys, which, as you said, they were young boys, not understanding a whole lot, but he would practically show them how from, stone to worm to vegetable, or to vegetable to worm, and, bird and animal and all that. And he would go on like that to teach them, how it was. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I heard about that. I don't know if it's published or not, probably not.
It's going to be published, yes, soon, very soon.
Okay, yeah. Would be nice to get a copy of that and read. Yes, David?
Oh,
Yeah.
so the question I have goes back to 1999, and Esfandiar had come to Myrtle Beach. And he was at the meeting hall one evening talking, and you were there translating. And this was a period, 1999, I don't remember what it's called, maybe somebody here would, but that all the computers in the world were going to crash. I don't know if you remember this.
Y2K.
Oh, Y2K, thank you. So somebody in the audience stood up, because Esfandiar was taking some questions, and he asked him the question about Y2K because that person was very concerned and very worried and that maybe the end of the world was coming or something to that effect.
Right.
And I'm sitting there listening to the question, but I'm also looking at Asfendiar, and of course you're in the site. And Asfendiar kind of like started to smile or even laugh a little bit. I don't know if you remember this. And then he gave an explanation, and then you translated. Do you remember that incident and the translation? Because the reason why I'm asking you this, Farshid, is because we're in a time where it's extraordinary. And Y2K for a lot of people was extraordinary.
Right.
But here's a man who we heard was on the planes of consciousness.
Right.
And when that question was asked, he cackled a little bit. So from his insight or point of view, and I keep going over in my mind for what did he say? What did he say?
Yeah,
and I can't remember.
Okay, you know, I might not remember that exact time, but I know that question was asked, maybe not one time, many times. And the answer to that question is what Baba says, that this world is not going to end. Because this is his game. He doesn't want to end the game. I mean, a child is playing. He doesn't want to end the game. He wants to play. So the whole world is his playground. He's, you know, playing. He doesn't want to end. So, but what happens after every end of the cycle, every end of the cycle of cycles, there are 7 avatars in every cycle. Like this cycle of cycles was Zoroaster, Ram, Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, Muhammad, and Meher Baba. Baba said, I am the last avatar of this cycle of cycles, and therefore my manifestation would be the greatest. And there, what Baba says that has happened hasn't happened before. But we don't know how many avatars have been so far. Innumerable. Because the earth that we live on is not the first earth. It might be the 3rd earth. It might be the 10th earth. Baba never really tackled on that and didn't want to, bog the mind. He wants us to do the heart work, not the mind work. But also as Fandor, when he was asked, said the same thing, that the world will not end. There would be a lot of disruptions and chaos in the world. The wars will expand. There would be a lot of bloodshed. Through all these bloodsheds, a lot of souls will be liberated. But there will be some who will survive and will give birth to the souls that have to come. So they would come, and then there would be, again, the life would be very rudimentary. It won't be civilized life anymore. It would be rudimentary, means that there would be like villages again, villages. And then it'll go on. The next avatar will come again, and the game will continue. So hopefully that answers your question, but that's his game. What can I say?
Does anybody else have a question before we go?
I do. This goes back to the beginning of your talk about silence. And I want to make sure I have this correct. That the silence is a way of really holding back the love.
Right.
And then the love will be released.
Yeah.
But I never thought of silence that way, but it's fitting with me. It's just, so there's a power in itself to what silence is.
Yeah.
And there must be a different kind of silence, of course, of the avatar,
Yes,
there must be different definitions of
Definitely.
silence.
Well, actually, let me read this. There is a little bit of, this is a good thing. It's also hung in the Mandali Hall, which I think it gives a lot of significance to Baba's silence. Or a lot of, Okay, Baba says, I'm never silent, I speak eternally. The voice that is heard deep within the soul is my voice, the voice of inspiration, of intuition, of guidance. Through those who are receptive to this voice, I speak. So basically, his breaking of the silence is to increase this intuition and inspiration, which again, one cannot obtain that because of the accumulated sanskaras. But if as the sanskaras fade out, the inspiration, and especially the intuition, will increase so much that one knows. One becomes so close to God that one knows of everything. And then Baba says, through those who are receptive to this voice, means the voice of inspiration and intuition, he will speak. So he's continuously talking to one of us, except we are deaf, unfortunately. And the only way to get rid of this deafness is to love. And once we love, the ear of the heart will open. The ear and the eyes of the heart will open. Okay, I didn't get to that one that I wanted to say. Okay. Oh, okay, here we go. When I break my silence, the impact of my love will be universal, and all life in creation will know, feel, and receive of it. It will help every individual to break himself free from his own bondage in his own way. I am the divine beloved who loves you more than you can ever love yourself. The breaking of my silence will help you to help yourself in knowing your real self. Okay, I guess I don't have that. God alone is real, and to know him we must love him. God resides in us all equally, and he wants silent love within. And then Baba says, I don't remember the exact quote, but somebody might remember it and help me. But Baba said, when I break my silence within you, and at that time you will realize that that is the word that you have always been longing to hear. So the word of love. Again, that.
Can you say that again? Say that again. What is your love to hear? Say that again.
When I break my silence within you, I don't remember the exact words now, but.
When the word of my love breaks out into your heart, then you will know that that is the one word you've always
been longing to hear. Yes.
That's beautiful. Thanks, Mary.
Yeah. Questions, comments, additions?
I can make an addition.
Yes,
it was
please.
something that you had said, but it's in Mera Meher, and I would hear Mani tell the story, that a man who came for one of these larger darshans, he had so many difficulties, he came late. And so he begged them to say, could I just see him for 1 minute? Just as a glance even. So Baba had already he was exhausted, had taken his clothes off. He had to put the sadra on, they knew that. but he asked for his garland. And Monty said, why would, you don't need a garland, you know, it'll be, and he said, no, I have to have that. Then Monty realized that his love was so strong that to break it, just so that his eye would go to the garland, because without that, it would have been too much. And that's what she writes in, it's in Mary Mahan. And the silence, you know, and his love reminded me a bit of what you were saying.
Yeah, that's wonderful what you said, because, you know, being in the divine presence is no joke. That is why those who went and met him felt so much, even though, as you said, it's only through a little hole that Baba let it go. But if he revealed himself, released that love, the impact of it is so tremendous that there's a lot of souls, they cannot hold it. They just drop their body.
And she would say it was harder for him to hold back his love, to hold back his divinity.
Right.
It would have been easier to release it, but he couldn't do that. It would be too much for him. Or it's his way. He has to figure when. We don't really know.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, thank you.
Thank you, Precious.
Thank you, Bob.
And now, on a musical note to end the program, Brad's going to do it big time. And if anybody or any bunch of people would like to help clean up a little bit after the program, it'll be appreciated.
Me too. It's all the good food that we invite.
That's too loud, Oh, we need a microphone.
Yeah.
That might help.
Yeah, I got it, Brad.
Okay. Thank you. That's good. Yeah. Right about there. One true lover from heaven above has sent you a message of love. Please listen to the meaning of these spoken words. The lover and beloved are destined to merge, and it still goes on if you know the way, and it still goes on each and every day. But you might think it's a dream, and you'd be so right, for the vision that you see is a candle in the night. So follow the path that lays before your feet, and keep your eyes focused on the one you'll finally meet. And it still goes on if you know the way, and it still goes on each and every day. talking about is locking to Noah. And be happy and rejoice in the sound of his name. For the journey, my friend, is but his divine gain. And it still goes on if you know the way. And it still goes on each and every day. And it still goes on if you know the way. And it still goes on each and every day. Okay, this last one here is kind of a sing-along, but you'll get it real quick, I think. It is a sing-along, not kind of a sing-along. Well, he's come for me and he's come for you, and the only one thing that's left to do, just think of him all your livelong day, and surrender every moment and sing his praise, and to sing, sing, 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 sing his praise. Well, he's come for me and he's come for you, and there's only one thing that's left to do, just think of him all your livelong day, and surrender every moment and sing his praise, and to sing, sing, 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 sing his praise. Well, he's come for me and he's come for you, and there's only one thing that's left to do, just think of him all your livelong day, and surrender every moment and sing his praise, and to sing, sing, 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 sing his praise. Well, he's come for me and he's come for you, and there's only one thing that's left to do, just think of him all your livelong day, and surrender every moment and sing his praise, and to sing, sing, 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 sing his praise. He's come for me and he's come for you, and there's only one thing that's left to do, just think of him all your livelong day, and surrender every moment and sing his praise, and to sing, sing, 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 sing his praise. And he's come for me and he's come for you, and the only one thing that's left to do, just think of him all your livelong day, and surrender every moment and sing his praise, and to sing, sing, 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 sing his praise. Avatar Mera Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Mera Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Mera Baba Ki Jai.
And I'll end the meeting by saying 3 words. Thank you, Mayor Baba.
I thought you were going to say, clean up, please.
That too, Pam, you're hired.
Thank you, man.